jumping on. So I'm not just trying to have a one person conversation, but thanks everybody for being here. As always, my name is Jesse, the same person that I was last week and the week before that. But this week we're going to talk about a couple different things, but I want to make it a lot more interactive. I want anything that you guys have, if it's something going on, if it's a question you have, even if it's not on topic for what we're talking about, I'm asking you guys to please throw it out there. And the reason why I'm saying that is because some of you guys, which I appreciate, to be honest with you, some of you guys have been reaching out to me, text messaging me, calling me, sending me messages on Facebook and asking me, even if it's just a simple question, hey, how would you approach this? How would you do that? That's what we're trying to do, guys. And really, the only thing I would say is if you feel when you have a question or concern, something that you think could be of benefit, don't be afraid. If you guys are on the Facebook group, post it in there and tag it to me. If you tag me in there, I'm going to get notified about it right away, and I'll answer it just as fast as a text. But the reason why is, as Esteban and I were talking, a lot of the questions that, and I don't want to call anybody out individually. I'm not trying to use anybody's name to make them feel like I'm pinpointing them. But, you know, if Carlos has a question, there's a good chance that it could also benefit Juanita and Daniela, and maybe Idris could learn from it as well. So don't be afraid to post that on more of a social forum, because the only people that are in that group are other Hustle Media clients. But a lot of times you guys, I'm not saying that you do it, but you might discount the fact that the same question you have could be of benefit to 30, 40, 50 other people. And it's not something that necessarily I would think, hey, we should cover this on a weekly basis. So if you do have a question, feel free to throw it in there or send it to your CSM, because all those guys know how to get a hold of me instantly, and they can post it to where it's more of a question and answer thing. I'm sure Carlos could handle that, right, Carlos? Okay, cool. So with that being said, and that's a thumbs up, it works for me. With that being said, really what we're going to talk about today is making offers, because a lot of times, just from what I've seen and in my experience, a lot of times people get so caught up in the thinking behind what's going to be a great deal, how can we make this deal the most profitable possible, et cetera, that you kind of, it's like you're starting to trip over dollars to pick up nickels. You know what I mean? The way that I personally feel is the best way to make an offer is fast and loose. Like if you put me on the phone with 50 people, I want to make 50 offers to people. Even if they say, fuck off, Jesse, don't ever call me again. I'm cool with that as long as I'm slinging numbers at somebody. And with that idea of slinging numbers at somebody, I don't mean to just shoot from the hip and throw crazy figures, but let's talk about what we can do to generate an offer while we're on the phone with a person, talking to them about their house. Like, what are some of the websites that you guys use? Nina, what's a website? I'm going to make you go off mute for a second, Nina. What's a website that you're using to comp properties as you're talking to a seller?
Either PropStream or Zillow.
Okay. Are you pretty comfortable with it so far?
Yeah, it just, I'm comfortable with it, but not doing it on the fly while I'm on the phone.
Okay. What do you think is giving you difficulty with it being on the phone? Is it the idea of multitasking with speaking to the seller at the same time trying to look at the property?
That I would say that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was kind of a hang up for me in the beginning as well. Are you working on on just like a virtual basis, or are you working in a local market?
Well, I'm virtual with someone who is local.
Okay, makes sense. But like the majority of your leads that are coming in, are they in that local market?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. And is anybody else working anything that's like a local market close to them that they kind of know or understand, or where you're working like the same area all the time, the same 5, 6, 7 counties on a regular basis? Okay, the reason I ask that, guys, is because I know for me, one of the things that really helped me when I was brand new in wholesaling was taking the time. And you guys have probably heard me say before, that success only comes before work in the dictionary. You know what I mean? You can't expect in this business, in my opinion, to be able to have a lot of success if you're not willing to invest some of your own time. We understand that you're investing money as far as paying for your marketing and stuff like that. But you also have to be able to invest some time. And what that time should do is you should take the time to actually learn the markets that you're trying to work if you're working them on a regular basis. And the reason I say that is like with Idris, as you guys were starting to log in, you might have heard me talking to him. And he said, Detroit, that's my bread and butter. I guarantee you, I could give him areas of Detroit and he's going to be able to tell me what the ARVs are, what the comps are in that area, because he knows that market. Same as Rusty out in Arizona. And you're in Arizona, right, Rusty? Somewhere out there, Pinal County,
Yeah.
wherever Pinal County is. So
Yeah,
I've seen
but
it
no,
on
you're 100% right. Because you know what's so easy about my market, I guess, is that if there's a house that's built in the 50s to the 70s, I know right now that if it's between 1,200 and 1,500 square feet, that thing's going to sell for about 220,000. And if it's a newer house that's about the same size, I know it's going to sell for around 300,000. And so it really just having that baseline. And then I actually look at Zillow just every now and then to see what's listed to kind of, recalibrate my baseline. But once I have my baseline down, it's real easy, honestly.
Yeah. And that's where I was kind of going with it, guys, is that if you're willing to take, say, 20 minutes a day, and every day you're willing to just kind of jump on, see what's listed for sale. If you have access to the MLS, by all means, I would definitely tell you, get on the MLS, see what's pending. One thing I like to do is I get on the MLS and I reach out to realtors. I was driving on a street yesterday, coming back from lunch. I had a late lunch and I was driving down a street and I saw a for sale sign. And the person that was with me didn't peep it the same way I did. I saw the sign, who it was that was selling it, the realtor. And I just kind of put it into the back of my brain, like, okay, that place is for sale. Later on that night, she sent me a message saying about the listing, like, hey, this house is for sale across the street from me. I pulled it up and saw that it said pending at 200,000. Now, this is across the street from a house that I wholesaled 2 years ago for 56,000. You know what I mean? And back then the ARV, I mean, it was a pretty much finished house. I was able to buy it for 40, wholesaled it for 56. And I was honestly thinking the place is probably worth about 100 now because it's going through a good bit of appreciation. Instead, it's showing that it's pending at 200. So the first thing I did this morning was I called the realtor and I said, hey, Ashley, what's going on? I saw that you had this listing. Is this a property that your husband flipped? She said, yeah. I said, can you give me some details on it? She said, told me it was active for like 8 hours and they had 3 offers on it and they accepted a full price offer on it. That immediately makes a big difference in my mind because I have 2 properties by there right now that I'm flipping that I was expecting the ARV to be 170. So boom, I have instant new comps that I actually can go with factual information and know what I'm talking about right from the get-go. So if you take 20 minutes a day to learn the markets that you're working in, it's going to make your job of making an offer so much easier because then you're going to already kind of have an idea in your mind as far as what you can pay, what you think repairs are going to be. And it really doesn't matter to me personally if it needs $20,000 worth of work or $35,000 worth of work. I'm still probably coming in at a wholesale cash price offer of as low as I possibly can go, right? So that's the second thing that I'm going to talk about with making an offer. The first thing is take the time to learn your market. The second thing, though, is once you've taken time to learn your market, understand that making an offer to somebody, I don't know how else to put this to where it makes sense, but the best advice I ever got is like, if your first offer isn't almost embarrassingly uncomfortable for you to say, then you're too high. And I understand that sometimes we have to just grab the easy deals that are there. Like somebody calls Rusty and he knows that the house is a $250,000 house. And they say, look, if somebody gives me 120 grand, I'll take it, or 150,000. He might grab that deal if it's a good deal. But the ones where you can really make fat spreads on are the ones that you're willing to go in and offer a low amount of money, kind of almost going at it from the position of like, what do I have to lose? Let's take a chance. You know what I mean? The worst that can happen, guys, is they don't sell you the property that you still don't own, that you didn't know about 5 minutes before you got the lead in, and it wasn't even on your radar. That's the worst that can happen. So the best that can happen is that you end up getting a deal with a huge margin on it, right? And the only reason I'm saying that is because today at 3:00, I have a closing on an assignment, and we're making 39,000 on the assignment, right? And the reason why was because two different wholesale companies went out and saw this property, and the woman, it was her parents' house. They died, and she had to figure out what to do. She was lost, confused, didn't even know where to start. Both the other wholesale companies went out there and just tried to give her a cash offer that was a little bit of a higher cash offer. It was actually a good bit higher than where I was. And they basically were like, look, just get your house stuff figured out. And once you have it figured out, this is what I'll pay you for it. So by the time I got involved, I already knew that there was two other people that had come and seen the property. I was the last one coming to see it. And she told me up front, this is what they offered me. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And I kind of did what I do as far as making her feel like I was a much better option. But then where I really got the deal and where I really brought the value was I took the time to listen to her. And I said, listen, to be honest with you, if I was just to come in with a cash offer and I was to say, if the property is ready to go as it is, this is what I would pay you for it. I was like, I'd probably be around where those guys are. I was like, I'd maybe be a little bit lower because they're known to kind of come back and try and whittle a couple more bucks off you once you agree to the deal up front. I said, but what it seems to me is like you need somebody to help you through this. And I said, why don't I do this? I'm going to call my attorney on Monday. I don't have some attorney that's like hanging out by me. It's just an attorney that I use for real estate stuff. So I said, I'm going to call my attorney on Monday and I'm going to inform him of everything that's going on. I said, now I know that you already told me that money's a little tight for you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to give you less money for the property, but I'm going to take care of everything start to finish. I'm going to pay for the attorneys. We're going to get the estate and probate. We'll get it in front of the courts. We'll get everything handled for you. The only thing you're going to have to do is be able to provide a death certificate, and they're going to have to collect the estimated inheritance tax at the time of settlement. Is that, and I kind of packaged it to where it was like, is this more of what you're looking for? Is this the type of help that could be of benefit to you? She said, yes. I came in $20,000 less than the next competitor of mine, which was Honest Home Solutions here in York. I came in 20,000 less. We ended up negotiating a little bit. I still got it for $12,500 less than what they had offered her, right? And I had the attorney take care of everything. I got off the phone with his paralegal this morning, and she's like, do you just want us to take it out of your settlement check? Yeah, that's fine. What's it come out to? $1,290. Okay, cool. So take that off. I still got the property for over $10,000 cheaper than somebody else did by just having enough confidence to say, hey, look, we'll take care of something for you. So with presenting offers, guys, don't be afraid to be the solution finder to their problems. That's how you can justify a much lower offer in this type of business, is by being the person that can handle and alleviate any of their problems, concerns, or something that could come up. For example, a big one that I hear is, well, what do we do after, like, and I mean this from like a seller's perspective. They'll say, so what happens if I agree to it? What happens next? And unfortunately, guys, I'm not saying all of you guys. I know some folks like Colin has been doing this for a really long time. I'm sure he's very polished at what he says. But there's some of us guys that have maybe either never done a deal before, or maybe you've only done one or two. again, that's where you have to tap into yourself and be willing to practice in your downtime what you're saying, how you're saying, and how you're going to deliver that to somebody so that you can present it to them with confidence. Like, for example, with me, what I say is, Rusty, it's a good thing you asked that. Actually, our company takes care of everything start to finish for you. So once we agree to everything, I'm going to send you over just a simple agreement of sale. I can actually start filling it out right now. It only takes a couple seconds for me. And I'm going to shoot that over to your email. Have you ever used like a DocuSign or anything on your phone, like where you can just kind of scribble your initials?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. That's just how we send it. And the nice thing is once you actually sign it, and like I said, we'll go over it over the phone together. And then once you sign it, it actually sends a copy right over to our title company. And then you'll have a copy in your email and I'll have a copy. Once our title company has it, then we're going to send them the EMD that we're going to talk about on the agreement. And that'll let them start to search the property and make sure there's no like liens or judgments against it, anything that we would need to know about before closing. Once that happens, we take care of everything start to finish. The only thing, like the next step in the process is just having you get paid on closing day. That sounds pretty simple for you, doesn't it?
It does.
Awesome. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it as easy of a process for you as humanly possible. Rusty, before I send over the agreement, do you have any other questions that you possibly could think of that you haven't asked me yet?
I don't.
No? Okay, perfect. So Rusty, and you said the property is registered under your name, correct? Awesome.
Right.
And Rusty, what's the full address of that property? 123 Main Street, Pinal, Arizona. I don't think that's even a city, but whatever, Arizona 00000. Okay, great. And Rusty, what's your email address? Rusty, what's the best phone number to reach at? And you're also your mobile phone, or is that the best number for both? Okay, great. As he's giving me that information, I'm filling it in on my contract, shooting it into my DocuSign and sending it to him, guys. And me personally, I'll just show you guys how I go over an agreement of sale with somebody. Hang on one second. So can you guys see this right now?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
I just say, Rusty, we're going to go over the agreement of sale real easy or right now for you. So if you look up here at the top, it says this agreement is made the 24th day of May, 2023 between Rusty, whatever your last name is. I can't remember it all of a sudden. Rusty's last name, which is now by called like the seller, and then my company, Easy Exit Home Solutions. And this is just saying that we're buying the property at the description of 123 Main Street, and that's in Yuma, Arizona, 00000. Like I said, we're buying it in an as-is condition. Now, Rusty, up here at the top, you're going to see the sale price. That's that $135,000 that we agreed to. Rusty, right underneath that, you're going to see the earnest money deposit. That says $50. What that means is that just allows the title company to actually secure funds from us to show that this is a legal transaction so that they can start to search the property and actually make sure that everything's okay on it, which just leaves us the total due at settlement of the $134,950. Now, right underneath that, Rusty, you're going to see the buyer and seller will both pay their prospective share of the closing costs, attorney fees. Really, that just means that you're going to have to pay your side of the transfer tax as required by state law. Here in my state, it's only 1%, which is a nice thing for each of us. So you're just looking at a few bucks for that. It just means in number two that any liens, encumbrances, and mortgages, they're going to get taken care of at the time of closing. And closing is going to be number three, which says the buyer, the seller and the buyer will set closing as soon as possible, but not later than 45 business days after the date of the inspection. Rusty, as we jump down to number 4 and number 5, occupancy just means that you're obviously not able to live there once we buy the place. And if there's anything else going on with it, we would obviously have to figure that out beforehand. Number 5, the property is being sold in as-is condition. I understand, like we talked about, we're not going to go through and do a full-blown home inspection or anything. I just need to be able to come out and make sure that there's 4 walls and a roof there and that everything's as you kind of described it. Now, number 6, Rusty, just says that you're understanding and you agree to allow me to access the property like what I just said. So I can come out and make sure there's 4 walls and a roof there, make sure there's nothing going on that I don't know about. If the property is vacant, you'll just give us, permission so that I can start to like walk contractors through, some of the investors that I work with. And normally we'll just put like a lockbox on like the side of the home, the back of the home, nothing that anybody sees. You would have the code for it. No, Rusty, if you do see though, the last sentence here, it say buyer may terminate this contract at any time before closing. If the buyer is unsatisfied with any findings during the 10-day inspection period, or whatever amount of inspection period you want to use. The reason that we have to put that on there, Rusty, is we need to make sure, like I said, we're talking about the property right now, and I'm agreeing to buy the property, but obviously I don't even know, for all I know, I could come out there and it's missing the back half of the house. So that's just saying that if something's like way crazier than what we kind of talked about today, that obviously I could cancel it, but I wouldn't expect you to try and sit there and lie to me or anything like that. You understand, like I talked about, we might end up flipping the property. We might rent the property. So this is just saying that we're allowed to advertise the property with whatever means we're going to do with it. And obviously anything that you don't want that's left behind after we settle on the property, Rusty, that would become our possession. And like I told you before, we would just trash it out. So anything that you want to get out of there, please make sure you take. The title company for the transaction is going to be Deedworks Title. That's the title company we use for everything. They're great people. You're going to absolutely love them. And your contact there is going to be named Tammy. And if you have a pen and paper handy, I'm going to give you her phone number a while. Number 10 just says that you have to keep insurance on the property until you don't own it anymore. Number 11 says you can't not show up to closing. It just means that basically we both have to do what we say and say what we do. Okay. The attorney's fees is if like something crazy happened and like, I don't know, you burnt the house down and then we're like, no, you still have to buy it, Jesse. And it turned into a crazy court case. Obviously we're trying to avoid that, but we would be entitled to, try and cover our losses if there were any. And then you're just understanding that because like you told me, there's a mortgage on the property. You got to let us or Deedworks Title just be able to search the mortgage so that we can have the exact payoff. And then down at the bottom, you'll just see where it says number 16. That's just saying that a member of Easy Exit is a full-time real estate professional, but we're not acting in any sense on this transaction. Now, right underneath that, you're going to see it'll come up right on DocuSign. That's where you're going to sign, and then DocuSign will auto fill in a date right underneath there, and you'll see my signature beside buyer, and then my date will be already filled in. Down at the bottom, you're going to see your emails filled in and your phone number is matching your cell phone that you told me is the best one to contact. Did everything seem correct on the agreement of sale so far, Rusty? Yeah. Okay, super. I'm going to shoot that over to you now. I just need you to go ahead and sign it for your personal residence, pack your kids and your wife up and get out of your house. So, but again, I'm only saying that, guys, because you should be comfortable enough to walk your seller through the contract start to finish. If you're not, do some homework, practice reading it 3 or 4 times, 5 or 6 times until you feel confident enough to be able to read over it. Why does that matter? Again, if you're going to be making a lot of offers, guess what you're going to also have to be prepared to do? Send out a lot of agreements, because a lot of people say, well, send it to me in writing or send me your offer, or, and if somebody says, send me your offer, I ask them, well, what do you mean? Do you want me to just like call you and leave you a voicemail with my offer? Or do you want me to send you an agreement of sale? Because Colin, can we both agree? I want to buy the house and you want to sell the house. So if there's really nothing stopping you from selling the house and me from buying the house, why don't I just send you the agreement of sale now? So that way we can just get it signed and get the title company started on it. And boom, I take it from a possible into I'm assuming the deal. I'm making an offer with the expectation that we're going to be able to buy the property, right? So again, first thing, second thing, third thing, get to know what you're going to be going over with the person. The fourth thing with making an offer. First thing, like I said, know your markets that you're actually working in, know how to be able to comp a property, go low and go as low as you possibly can. Get very familiar with the material that you're going to be sending out and expecting a person to sign. And then the last thing that I really have on it is just don't get so hung up in the numbers, because a lot of times, and maybe you guys have a different experience from me, But a lot of times my first offer isn't the offer that they end up settling on anyways. It's usually a little bit of back and forth. So with presenting offers and showing offers to people, you don't want to make it to where it's so serious that when you present an offer, like I don't want to sit there and say, all right, Cindy, I'm going to call you at 5 p.m. to present you with an offer. Because this person's like already feeling like, you're tense. It's like that same feeling like when the car salesman goes back and talks to his manager and then comes walking back out and he's like holding his piece of paper. It's like, dude, save the bullshit theatrics. Just tell me if you're accepting my deal or not. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with these people. Don't set it up to be something more than it is, right? I never said I will call you back to make an offer. If anything, I'll say, all right, Michelle, well, listen, I appreciate all the information you've given me so far. I'm going to take it and I'm going to do a little bit of research. I'm going to do some homework and try and figure out my numbers. And I'll give you a call back around 5 o'clock and we'll see if we can figure something out. Does that sound good? Because again, I want to leave it open-ended so that it just is a normal part of our conversation. If you're looking at presenting an offer like it's a very specific part of the transaction, you're going to be more hesitant in how you present your offer, and you're losing all that rapport that you built up with them the whole time. Whereas if you go from just having a nice conversation, if Colin and I are sitting there shooting the shit for 45 minutes and he's telling me about his kids and their baseball game and, how his dog died 3 years ago and he misses her, but he doesn't miss her puking in the middle of the night or whatever it is. And then it's like, well, Colin, I mean, listen, I really like talking to you so far. What's it going to take to get this deal done? That's a lot more natural than if I call him back and we lose all of that. And now I'm calling him back when his kid just, wrecked his bike outside. And I'm expecting to be able to get his same level of attention and have that same level of rapport with me for me to still shoot him a super low offer. I've lost all my momentum, right? So if I was to summarize step number 4 is when the emotion is high, it's time to buy, right? When you get them up that emotional escalator with you to where they feel like they're on your level, you've been talking for 30, 45 minutes and you're having a great conversation. That's when you want to strike. You strike while the iron is hot. You don't let all of the, they don't, if you ever go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, they don't bring the steaks out once they cool down to room temperature. They come out and they say, be very careful. It's on an 1800-degree plate and the butter is like sizzling and jumping off and burning your skin off the plate. You know what I mean? They're selling the sizzle, not the steak. That's the whole thing behind it. They get you excited about a small thing. So with the same with this, when you're presenting offers, guys, understand that when you want to present that offer is when they're the most comfortable with you, when they've been having the longest conversation with you, because that's usually when they're going to be most inclined to just open up and tell you factual numbers. Look, I can't do it for this, but I can do it for this. Because that's when they, at least in my experience, that's usually when they start giving big discounts themselves, and they're willing to start whacking profit left and right. Again, it can always vary based off the motivation of the seller and how motivated they are, but there's no reason to sit there and talk to somebody for 45 minutes to an hour and then lose all of that and try and gain it back later if we can do it right then and there, right? So how do I do it right then and there? Same as you guys. I use the MLS, I use Zillow, I'll use realtor.com. And I personally am not relying on them as much as I'm relying on my own facts and my own knowledge base to kind of figure out what I know, like if we're in the general vicinity. And then the other thing that I say is I'll jump onto Zillow and see a lot of times what it says the house is worth first when I first start talking to them. And the reason why I like to do that is because you can usually get a good gauge as to how serious or how motivated the seller is based off when you ask them, hey, look, Rusty, normally when we buy properties in that area, I'm not saying this is what your place is worth, but normally we buy properties between like 100 and 125,000 in your part of Arizona. I mean, if you were to come up with an offer, Rusty, or if you were to come up with an amount, I mean, what's the least amount of money you'd be able to take for the property in the condition that it's in? Right? I always ask it the exact same way. What's the least amount of money that you would be willing to take for the property in the condition that it's in? The reason that I ask that is because whatever their bottom dollar number is, I can usually start shaving a lot of money off of that if I have to. But there's also sometimes where they will give you a very realistic number that's super workable. Like, for example, I know I've had a deal recently. I told you guys about it. A woman named Jamie Payne, where I kind of threw out a real low number, expecting her to be like, no way. But in reality, the house needed nothing. This is the woman that I talked about a few weeks ago. She just did not want to use a realtor. She wanted to just find somebody to buy it from her and be done with it. So I went into it and I was like, well, typically, I mean, I knew it was a $300,000 house. She knew it was at least a $260,000, $270,000 house, right? Because she had a little bit older numbers because she had it appraised last year. So she already knew that. But when I told her, I said, well, honestly, I mean, this is the way that we buy homes. This is the reason that we buy them. We have to be able to buy it within these margins. I really would love to be able to do a deal with you, Miss Payne, but it just, the numbers kind of have to be able to make sense for me. I said, normally in this area, like the Pembroke Colonial Park area, that when we buy properties, normally we're buying in between like 160 to maybe 180,000 if it's in as nice a condition as this. I mean, if you were to come up with like the least amount of money you could possibly take for the property, you know, what would you think it is? And this is as the woman's holding an appraisal in her hand from 2021. And she goes, well, I mean, I was told by multiple people it's worth 250,000. She's like, but that was last year. She's like, and I don't know what the market's doing now. She's like, but if you'd give me 200,000, I'd do a deal. So she just shaved off 50 grand right from the get-go for a house for nothing. You know what I mean? And then that's where I go, I'm like, wow, you know, I appreciate that. And I really would love to, but unfortunately our criteria are our criteria. I mean, the maximum I can usually kind of really stretch myself to would be like 180,000. And that would be the absolute max. Again, this place needs nothing. It needs power washed on the outside. So I'm going to go up there with my bald ass and sit there with my power washer and spray the siding off and then be like, all right, let's put it for sale. You know what I mean? That's it. But so I sat there and I said, look, you know, your number's a little high for me. I wish I could, but I can't. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I can make you an offer on money that I can't spend. I said, but I don't want to lose this deal because of it. I need you to just work with me a little bit. And like, yes, I absolutely gave her the puppy dog eyes. I was like, come on, Miss Jamie, like, you don't understand. Like, I've been working really hard. I was like, and me and another guy, we're in a contest right now. We're trying to see who can buy the most homes in 60 days. I was like, and I know it doesn't mean anything to you. I was like, but this contest means everything to me. I was like, if I could give a little bit more, could you give some more too? And she was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I mean, if I could come up like $2,500, could we do the deal? And she's like, 2,500, you said come up a little bit more. I was like, what about 2,600, 2,700? And she was like, no, we're not doing that. And I was like, no, seriously. I was like, if I could do 186, I was like, if I could do 186, could we do a deal? And she's like, what about 190? I was like, I like 185. And she was like, all right, we'll do 186. And boom, that's how I got it locked up. And now since then, the neighboring property sold for 300, which is in way worse condition. I just had a realtor go look at it. He wants to list it for me for 322.5. You know what I mean? That's how you get big ass margins on some deals, guys. Is that, I mean, I'll literally probably make 100K on that deal. And the reason why is being willing to sometimes go in and swing for the fences on a property where you know it can get retail, they know it can get retail, but you still swing for a cash deal anyways. Why not? I mean, what was the worst that could have happened to me in that situation? She said no. All right, fine. Then I would have tried to push to novate it. And if I couldn't have pushed to novate it, I would have tried to see if I could have figured out a way to still make the deal work. You know what I mean? I was getting the deal either way. It was just about trying to really go aggressive sometimes to get those deals where you can actually make fat margins. So that way, when you have a bunch of deals that are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 deals, even though you're spending a bunch of money in marketing, it's all covered. And then you still get a nice injection every 60, 90 days of a big fat deal that kind of makes it all worthwhile. You know what I mean? So that's all I got. I try and keep it simple and give like 4 simple points on something, but open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, closes you guys don't feel comfortable with, structuring a deal, anything like that, I'm all ears.
Jesse, there was a question a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew it was there. It's from oh my God, you put Zoom and now you're confusing me. From Elizabeth, from the Zoom user. She was asking about the probate process and how it is handled. Is that the entire question,
You talking
Elizabeth?
about Michelle?
No, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Um,
Who's Elizabeth? Oh, there's Elizabeth. What's up, Dr. Elizabeth?
well, I don't understand the whole probate. You went through, like you're using that example and you're saying, oh, we'll handle probate and blah, blah. Do you think you could talk a little bit about the probate process, how that comes into properties that are inherited?
I can't, but my real estate attorney would be happy to help you with that. To be honest with you, I don't know. Maybe Rusty knows more than I do. I mean, so what my understanding for it has always been is if a person dies and they have an estate or a will or heirs, you know, whatever it might be, the probate process is basically declaring that that person doesn't legally own the property anymore or the estate, and that it's been inherited by someone else and the ownership is able to be transferred. It has to go through a different process in every state. I know in my state, we can send out an agreement of sale to like, so I can't, like, let's say you had a property, right? I can't send out a property. And I'm saying like you have a property that you inherited when your mother passed away and it was left in the will to you. I can't write a agreement of sale to you for that property. So I have to write it as to the estate of blank, 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 you know, for the property of, and then have you as the executor or the signer. But we can't close on it until, so like on that situation, then the attorney gets it scheduled. It goes before the court. They do whatever they have to do legally wise. And then once they get their certificate and they have like their EIN for the estate and everything like that, I just get told, hey, we're clear to close on this. Again, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can probably give you way better information, including Google, than what I can. I'm one of those people. I find the path of least resistance. For me, it's you're an attorney, you handle dead people stuff, handle dead people stuff for me. So, and
So you
I
basically, so in Connecticut, we close with real estate attorneys, not title companies.
Mhm, yeah.
So I
Mhm.
like in that example, you said, oh, you know, I'll have, you know, you're trying to help that person not have to deal with the headaches per se, or you said, oh, you know, I'll have my attorney deal with the probate.
Mhm.
So you can just, so how would you have the agreement? Would you put to the estate of blah, 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 but then you have the seller sign it?
Yeah, hang on. Let me
I can help you out with this if you'd like.
go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
There's basically two things that happen at the beginning. You establish heirship, whoever's going to take over, or an administrator from the court takes over. So that's the
Oh.
first step. The second step is once somebody's been established, you have either limited authority or full authority. Full authority means you can do whatever you want within whoever's the executor or executrix, which is what they call female, of the estate, to do whatever they need to do to sell the property, to sell the different items inside the house or any other estate items. If they have limited authority, they have to go before the court and ask permission for each step of discounts they want. In California, it's 90%. You can't take an offer below 90% without getting approved by the judge. And then it basically is like whittling down from there. And each one you have to go before the judge and ask permission and so on and so forth. So you want to really try and get full authority granted by the attorney, because that's the deal you want to get into. Limited authority is going to be really handicapping and time consuming because it's going to take a long time to deal with. I hope that's helpful.
That is,
Yeah, and again, what I would say with that is I appreciate everything that Jeffrey just said. He again knew a lot more information than what I did. I just always know that my attorney is going to look out in my best interest because he's representing them separately from me, but he understands my business and what I'm in and what I'm trying to do. So I've never had an issue by just sending it to him. But again, that's one of those things where it's kind of like a good established relationship with somebody, and kind of reaching out and taking the time to kind of form that relationship has paid off for me immensely, because they can kind of do anything that I ever need them to do. So, but
okay.
yeah, with what
And-
he said,
And the probate
I've heard
court is
about
basically
limited authority
is-
situations that go really shitty.
yeah, the probate court is basically just clearing credit and debt. They're just trying to establish that whatever debts they owe are cleared, and then
Oh,
it can be distributed for whatever's left. So if you try and get into a deal before any of that's established, you're going to have a long wait and in a limited authority situation. So those deals probably are garbage.
Mm.
And the reason they're limited authority is because somebody in the family's fighting.
oh, okay. That helps. Thank you.
Fair enough. Anybody else have any other questions? Nothing.
Hey, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
I'm
How are
pretty
you,
new
Kevin?
here. Good. So yeah, I just got trained on Novation and I locked up my first contract, which I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, I guess I'm a little bit nervous about when the seller sees it listed on the MLS. Because yeah, there's a very large spread there. Yeah, I did mention like, hey, is this going to cover repairs, closing costs, all that other fun stuff? But yeah, I guess could you like walk me through what that conversation looks like? Like, I assume that sellers do reach out if they see it on the MLS and they may question you about it.
Yeah. I mean, you can handle it a couple different ways. Me personally, I don't do a ton of Novation deals, so I would not be the best source for you to probably speak to on that. But the ones that I've handled before, the way that I normally approach it with somebody is I explain, that it's kind of, I put that as part of the offer. Like I say, look, I'm going to market this to a broad reach audience. And obviously I'm going to put some profit for myself on there because it's a business, not a charity. But included with that concierge service to be able to protect your equity and to give you the best offer like I was able to, we're going to be able to have to do a certain things. Part of those things are, like I said, be able to market it to a select list of end buyers. Now, I understand you don't want to have to be the one dealing with realtors and all the crazy stuff that goes along with that. So that's what my company is actually going to take on for you. We're going to handle any inspections, repairs, closing costs, stuff like that. You don't have to worry about finding anyone, choosing anyone, knowing if you're going to get the right person or not. We're going to cover all that for you under our concierge umbrella, like I already said. And the nice thing is, again, the money that I'm offering you that we are agreeing upon for the property, that's what you're going to get at closing day. So past that, I'm sure you don't really care that much because, like you said, we're agreeing on a certain dollar amount. As long as you get that amount, that's what you're happy with. So that's why in the back end, my company has to do a little bit of the extra legwork, and that's where we tack on our profit as well. And then if they call and they like see that it's listed on the MLS and they get super upset, I explain, well, several things. One, we're going to have to be able to pay the realtors commissions off of all that, which there's an obvious expense for us on that. We're going to be covering the closing costs, which are very expensive. So that's all getting factored into that price, as well as any of the repairs, inspections, and things like that. And like I told you in the initial conversation, there's obviously got to be some profit on there for the business as well, and to be able to pay the taxes and everything else. So that's why we come up with the price. The nice thing is that you're still getting the amount of money that we agreed upon, like what we discussed on the phone the other day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was good.
I mean,
Um,
because again, I'm not going to apologize for making money. Like,
Well, I
That's
guess my
what this
fear
fucking
is,
country was built off of.
I
It
guess,
was people being like, hey, I mean, it's like, I heard a funny thing the other day where it was like, Manhattan, the island of Manhattan sold for $29. And the Native Americans that sold it to them thought it was crazy. Like they just thought it was nuts. But that was because in Native American like ideology, you couldn't own land. Land was for everyone and for everything. So you didn't own land. So when these crazy people with makeup and wigs on were like, hey, we'll give you $29 for this island, they're like, yeah, whatever. You want to buy the sky too? Like, I'll sell you that, because they had no idea what it was. But that's kind of what this country was ended up being built off of, was not the idea of buying something for dirt cheap, but it's like, look, I'm going to bring the value however I see fit. Don't get upset that I'm going to make a profit doing it. You know, I just had this conversation last night with somebody actually who's wholesaling out in Oregon. And he has a deal where the person got really upset. Like he called me after like it closed yesterday, but he had a huge assignment deal, the biggest one he's ever had. And he made like $64,000 on his assignment. And the seller, like at the closing table, got really pissed off, like acted shitty towards him. And he was like, I didn't know what to do. He's like, I told him I could call him back today. And he's like, should I offer him money back or what should I do? I was like, absolutely not. I was like, don't give him a penny. I was like, and he's like, well, what do I tell him? I'm like, what do you not tell him? I was like, yeah, you explain that this is a business. This is how we make money. I buy things for as cheap as I can. I sell them for as much as I can. I guarantee you Nike isn't out there saying, well, if we can sell the shoes for $120, as long as we can make them for $115, we're good with that. No, they're going to be like, let's go find somebody that can make them for 30 cents. You know what I mean? And then we can sell them to these people for $200. That makes more sense to us. We like that idea. It's business. You know what I mean? So again, there's lots of ways that you can package it, but don't ever be embarrassed to make a lot of money. If somebody
Yeah,
can't get
so
that, fuck off.
I guess like we're protecting the deal. Do you always file like a notice of interest? Do you always cloud title to make sure that they
That's-
can't back away without you getting something?
That's a personal decision that you would have to make for you and your business. Me personally, I'm hesitant to answer certain questions like that because it's like, I don't want to say something that affects how you and your business do things and how they operate. Me personally, no, I don't file notice on any title. If I was doing tons of deals all over the place, I'd maybe consider it, but I have a decent enough reputation. There's only been maybe 6 or 7 times in my career where somebody else has tried to put something under contract that I already have under contract. And I just call them and I'm like, look, dude, I have a signed dated contract on this. We're already under agreement on it. If you want to buy the deal from me, you can buy the deal from me. But, otherwise, I need you to back off. And I've had like 2 where people kind of tried to get a little bit shitty with me. But again, that was where it was, I have a good relationship with the real estate attorney that I use. And it was just as simple as I called his office. Hey, could you send this company and this person, a legal notice that this property is already under contract, and just serve them a legal letter for me. He doesn't even charge me for it, just sends one out. But yes, hello,
So-
Michelle. You have a question.
Yes, sir. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure if I talked with you about this the last time we spoke, but did I talk to you about the poop house and
Yep.
okay. So they originally wanted 300 and I offered them 168. And the wife was really, really upset. And I told them to think about it a little bit. The husband said, what if we own or finance it to you? But they only owe about 76,000. So I still have about 120,000 in renovation, and it just didn't work for them to own or finance it. So I went back. These are the people who don't have a phone. They can't contact anybody. They're not talking to anybody else.
What's the
I have to
ARV
go
on
in
this
person to
house
talk
again?
to them. Pardon?
What's the ARV on this house?
If I add 200 square feet, if I convert the garage, I think the ARV will be about 382. And that's actually, yeah, I took 5% off of what I think the ARV will be just because of the market uncertainty. So I'm putting it at 382.
Okay.
Yeah, so the last time I went by, last week, they came down to 225. But they're, I'm not sure how much further I can get them down, and it's still, I mean, it'll need a door-to-door, roof to ceiling renovation.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure. He said maybe if I would sign for them on our motor home that they're gonna buy so they can, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, no. Don't do that.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so trying to find out some creative way to meet their need. They want to move out and to live in a motor home, and all they want to make sure that they get money. They would like to have some residual income. So he keeps pushing the owner finance thing. And I'm, if only all they've got to, they could only finance a certain portion of me, and I still have to come up with my own renovation money. So what would you just like stick to your guns and say, I'm sorry, this is the best I can do?
Okay, so you said they owe like 76,000 on the mortgage still.
76,000. So their net would be approximately 90,000.
Okay. Why don't you, have you tried to offer them to it? Like, are they expecting the money to pay? Are they expecting that 96,000 to buy the RV with, or are they planning on like financing the RV?
They're expecting to pay for part of that money is for the RV. So they want a minimum of $40,000 at closing. If I asked them if we sell or finance, what would the terms be? And they said, well, we need a minimum of like 40 or 50,000 at closing so we could buy the RV outright, and a little bit of other debt they have.
And how much do you feel like the renovations would be on the property?
It's gonna be at least 120,000.
Yee.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And what was your last offer?
160, 165.
No, I remember when we talked that one night. Is that what you feel like your max offer can be? Like you feel like you just can't go any higher than that?
That's having a profit of about 48,000. So I mean, if I'm gonna gut a house to the studs and rebuild it,
Right, it's
I
gotta be
don't
worth
really
your
want to make
while.
less than 50,000 profit.
Right. No, I understand that. Why don't you,
I mean,
why don't you see if, another idea would be, to kind of, to get soft terms to see if they would maybe accept it. Like say, how about this? How about we pay off your mortgage, right? So we pay off the mortgage and we put 40K in your pocket at the time of closing, right?
mhm.
And then I have to have another, so if you pay off the mortgage in 40K, what's that putting you into it at 116?
Mhm.
Is that right?
Um,
Yeah, 40 and
Yeah.
76. So be like, all right, so listen, we have, give me this 1 second. I would say, all right, so why don't we pay off the mortgage for you? And then I'll give you the $40,000 at closing. And then in addition to that, I'm going to pay you another $55,000 broken up into 12 payments starting 60 days after closing. Or not 12 payments, broken up into I don't know, say broken up over, we'll break it out over 60 payments.
5 years.
And
Yeah.
and I have the option to have you paid off completely in under a year at 0% interest.
Okay.
So if you did that, you're still coming in at your exact same sale price. You're just making this guy feel like he's getting something extra special from you. So you'd be into it at the 116. Right? And then
Mhm.
another 55,000 would put you at 171. So tell him you give him 50,000, not 55,000. So, and then
Yeah,
that
that would-
50,000 broken out over, I don't know, 60 payments would be 833 a month. And you'd tell him he would start receiving that 833 a month. I don't know, tell him either 60 or 90 days after closing. And tell him, but if it takes me longer than a year to pay you back, I'll even give you 6% interest on the money. If I pay you off in less than a year, I don't owe you any interest.
Oh, okay.
That way he's thinking in his head, hey, I have an extra $1,000 a month coming in almost for the next 5 years. He's not realizing that the reason you're telling him I'm not going to make any payments to you for 90 days is because you're going to be able to have most of the remodel done by then. I would hope.
Yes, right, right.
So you'd have most of the remodel done. So you'd be basically listing it going on market when you're making your first payment to him.
Okay, and then I get then I get a private money loan for the remodel.
Right. Right. Hang on just 1 second for me. Hang on a second.
Sure.
Sorry about that. I apologize. But yeah, you just you take out private money on the whole deal.
Okay.
And like, at least, I mean, I don't know how your lenders work, but like me, I would even, if you can, borrow the money for the payments that you're expecting to make to them too.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
would try and see if you could structure it like that, where you could do it where you're able to give him the money to pay off the mortgage, get his RV, get his ass out of the poop house, and get them going down the road, and then be like, look, we will, you'll start getting monthly payments 90 days after closing. And your payments would be broke out over, I would even say, tell them that you do the $50,000 remaining over 72 payments at $695, which would be $695 a month, $694.44 a month, starting 90 days after closing. If you
Mhm.
pay them off within the first year, you just have to give them the 50,000. If it goes beyond the first year, you'd have to, you'd be paying interest on it as well. And if he says,
Okay.
what interest rate, just say, competitive fair market rate. If
Okay.
he asks what that is, say like, I don't know, 5%. Let him tell you that it's not.
Yeah. He proposed 5% when he was offering the owner finance.
Yeah. And just listen, at this point, you've spoken to him enough times. You have to just, if they're still stuck on that high amount of money, just jack up your cost of renovations and just be like, listen, at the end of the day, guys, here's the deal. And, and sometimes you have to have that uncomfortable conversation where you have to say, listen, and I say this with all respect, but I'm not the one that let the animals start pooping on everything and urinating on everything. So while I understand that you guys are okay with it, nobody else would be. I wouldn't be, and any family that I could think of selling this to, they wouldn't be either. And guys, unfortunately, it's to the point where it's not just coming in and throwing down some new carpet and painting the walls. I have to rip out the drywall. I have to rip up the subflooring. I have to treat this place like kind of like a biohazard, because unfortunately at this point, that's what it has become. Through the rodent infestation, through the urine, and through the feces, it's not just a simple, hey, let's put some paint on the walls and throw down a new rug. There's costs that come along with that. And with those costs come a lot of time and a lot of overhead. And I have to pay for all that stuff before it gets done. I have to pay for the floors to get done. I have to pay for the drywall to get removed. I have to pay for the new roof to go on. And that's before I ever sell the house. What happens if I pay for all that stuff and the economy tanks the next day? Oh, well, you guys are okay, right? Shame on Jesse. Well, unfortunately, no, that's not how it works. You know, yeah, you guys are okay because you've already been paid for the property, but I still have to be able to get out of the property or sell it or move on from it without, you know, going bankrupt and losing my ass.
Right. Okay.
So, all right. But guys, listen, I'm not trying to cut it short. Does anybody else have anything? Because I really got a boogie.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So it's a novation question. So I understand the whole process of the novation and like how to get it into escrow and market it and all that stuff. The one question that I have is, what side of the HUD does your consulting fee go on? Is it on the seller side or the buyer side?
Buyer side,
Buyer.
out of their
Okay.
proceeds. Same as an assignment.
Okay, cool.
Fair enough?
Yep.
All right, guys. Have a good week. I will see you guys next week. Oh, and listen, last thing. If you guys are not signed up for the masterclass today at 4 o'clock, you really should be, because one thing that everybody could use help with, in my opinion, is learning how to dispo deals quickly, easily, and efficiently. And today at 4 o'clock, they're doing a masterclass with Esteban, and the guy that's running it, he knows his shit. He's helped multiple other big agencies really start to scale their whole process. So again, it's one of those things where if you can take the time to invest in yourself, fill your brain with some new information, you'll probably reap the rewards for it. So if you can go. That way you can get the recording of it sent to you, even if you can't stay the entire time. I can't be on there the entire time, but I'm going to jump on for a few minutes because I want to hear what they have to say. So, all right. See ya.
Awesome. 4 p.m. EST, just so you guys know.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, Carlos.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.